Hi, I'm late. Oh, by the way, if you can hear any of these insane noises, I've got no idea what's going on, but there's an electrician next door doing something, and it's just like, it sounds like they're running cables everywhere, and yeah. Um, yeah, sorry, I was meant to record this at least a week ago, and I kept setting it up and getting the computer ready and started to write notes, and then stuff just got in the way. Mainly Daisy has been ill for like the last week, and Sarah's been working, so I've been home looking after her, which has meant that I've got very little work done in the week prior to Black Friday. So I'm now here on a Saturday. I've now caught Daisy's cold. I'd quite like to just be in bed, or at least just chilling, but I'm here finishing assets, emails, everything. I feel like I need more consistency in my life, more routine. I've got it to a degree. I have a routine, but it's very easily kind of knocked off balance. What is going on? They're not even upstairs. Maybe it's just giant rats. But yeah, that's kind of irrelevant. Updates since the last video. Sorry, I normally have notes on my screen there, but I've just got them on my phone. I'm so confused. Fallen Capsule collaborations continue to do really, really well. One of my favorite things we did in the last year. It's sold well. We've put like a chunk of money to Charlie. I'm so sorry if you guys can hear that. Hopefully you can't. Am I gonna I'm just gonna have to continue. I've got so much fucking shit to do. I shouldn't even be doing this right now, but I feel kind of obligated to try and keep this consistent, even though ideally I should be doing it weekly. Yeah, it's done really well, and I'm really happy with it. People seem to really like it. People do seem to like it when we do slightly darker graphics, which I'm a fan of. It's not necessarily always what I want to do, but I do really like Charlie's stuff. And it's cool. That was, I think I said in the last video, that was like the first proper test of this like collab model where we have this like revenue cut. And I'll go on to Hazel and a few other things and talk about that, because we've basically implemented that same model and we will continue to do so moving forward. And it definitely works. Paid off some debt, which is nice. Like some company, we took a Shopify Capital, which is like there's so many different types of like money lending things for businesses. Obviously there's like traditional bank loans and things like this, but there are companies like, I think Wayflyer's one. Shopify Capital is now like the most convenient because we use Shopify, and it basically, they look at how much revenue you bring in and they say, okay, well, I think we could lend you this much money, and then you pay out a percentage of your sales. PayPal also does one called Working Capital, I think. And it's a really effective way of like borrowing money and then paying it back, because it's not like you have fixed payments of like, £500 a month or whatever, and then like it looks at your sales and it takes a percentage, so that you're only paying back what you can actually afford. So we took out one of those a while ago just to like help with cash flow and stock and stuff like this, and that's now gone, which is cool. So that's like one less kind of cash flowy thing off the bottom line. I'm really, really trying to avoid, like, while we're sort of still in this like sticky financial situation, I really don't want to be borrowing any more money. We have the option to take like another Shopify Capital loan. Like immediately they're like, oh, here you go, here's some more money you can have, and it's like, I don't really want it right now. But yeah, it's sort of nice to know that that's done. In the negatives, I definitely have dropped the ball on the film festival, like completely. It's still going. There's still a few people left to submit. It's sort of earlier in the year when I announced it, I was kind of more like, excited to do it, but I think we made it the barrier to entry a bit too high in terms of like a 15 to 30 minute long film. It's asking quite a lot, and basically we just haven't had that many submissions. We've obviously got some cool sponsors involved, and the people who sort of end up winning will win some really cool prizes, and I'm sure, I haven't fully gone through the films yet, we're still kind of just accepting them and sorting things out with the judges, but I'm sure they'll be really, really good. It's not going to have the same kind of scale of impact where, like, in the past we've had hundreds of people submit, and then it feels like quite a fairly big like community thing. You get a lot of attention of people who want to go and see the other videos on the website and things like this. In hindsight, I think that is a smarter way to do it. In hindsight, also, I just feel like I kind of lost the passion for it this year. There was just a lot of other stuff going on, and the film festival is a fair amount of admin, especially on the back end, and it doesn't really drive any revenue. I mean, it obviously drives a bit of traffic and things like this, but in the circumstances that we've been in, it's like, why am I spending so much time on something that, like, I don't want to just do things that drive revenue because you want to have fun, but it's like, it's tough. And there's always like, I always have this comparison in my head ever since it kind of started of like, now there's like the Star Awards, and it's like this December, it's pretty much the same fucking time, and the Star Awards is like thousands and thousands of pounds being paid out, and it's like a lot of attention. Obviously they've got a much bigger following and kind of more scale there, but then I'm just like, the film festival just kind of doesn't really pale in comparison. And if a film is going to win the film festival, they're probably in a good shot to sort of get some form of recognition from the Star Awards, and it's like, I don't know, it makes me feel like I get into this headspace of like, why do I even bother with it? But yeah, I don't know. But speaking of videos, films, etc., we released Hazel, which was Ethan and Noah's project. Really, really, really happy with how that has just all kind of come about. We've been able to basically use this same collaborative like revenue split thing to put like in my opinion, a significant amount of money into Ethan and Noah's pockets. There's still more sales happening every day. There's still more money to pay out to them. I basically pushed a load of revenue, like their share, like through early, so that, because normally it's a monthly thing, it gets paid out, but I like pushed it so that they got a big chunk early as a kind of like, it's live, there you go, and that feels good. And yeah, they're on the film, they're effectively taking like almost 100% of the revenue. We just take a little cut for like, because there's costs involved in actually hosting the thing and stuff like that. But it's made me really feel like there is opportunity for Motus sort of as we move forward to become like, it'll always be where it's kind of going at the moment and how it is, like, you know, a somewhat team. I'm not really sure what we have now, but putting out our own products and our own projects and things like this. But I would love it, because it's always had that intention to be like a collaborative, community driven brand, to become a bit of a platform where creatives, whether it was just, you know, a filmmaker and an athlete who are completely disassociated from Motus, are like, well, we could create something and then kind of use our existing, like, so they could create something and then come to us, and then we could basically say, well, look, we have the platform, we have the infrastructure to put this all in place, and we have the kind of marketing channels that are growing, whether it's social or email or whatever, to definitely generate a larger chunk of revenue than if they were to do it them on their own. Not definitely, but quite likely. And then essentially enable creatives to sort of sell things, and obviously like take a tiny cut, less of like a, you know, it wouldn't be a massive revenue driver, but it would be a very like setting up things like that and then pushing them, because there's very little like front end time for us. It's not like we're going out and creating it, but then we're enabling these people to get the benefits from it. Is that feels more kind of like positive and impactful than, let's say, the film festival, because the film festival involves a lot of time at the start and a lot of time at the end, but the results aren't crazy, whereas this is kind of like, well, somebody goes away and they make an amazing project, or maybe even in the future, if we had like excess capital, whether or not excess capital is ever a fucking thing, but you know what I mean, like marketing money, we could essentially fund projects and say, hey, look, we've got a budget, you creatives go out and make something, and then we will then push it out through our channels and do like a revenue split. And it's kind of what we're doing with the like clothing side with the collabs as well. Sorry, I probably sound really nasally. I'm a bit like, ugh. And I'm also just rambling like a madman. But yeah, like, I like that idea. It obviously, as you can tell in my head, needs a lot of like refinement and things, but I think there is potential for Motus to sort of head in that direction with this whole collabs idea. So, yeah. I mean, basically, what I am currently just absolutely knees deep in, not fucking chin deep in, eyebrows deep in, underwater fuck my brain, is Black Friday prep. That was not a fart, that was the noise outside. Lots and lots of sorting out marketing assets, scheduling. I've got calendars here, I've got a list behind me. Sorting out everything so that it's all ready to go, and sort of I can just push whatever buttons need to happen over that weekend. Because essentially, it's funny because around this time you'll always get at least one parkour brand putting out some sort of anti-Black Friday message, and it's like everyone can have their own opinion. And I totally don't agree with, like Walmart or someone making their workers get stampeded by crowds at 5 a.m. on the morning after Thanksgiving or whatever. Like there's levels to it. But nowadays in like the kind of online retail e-commerce world, Black Friday is now literally seen as like it's a selling event. It's a season almost. Like some people were on their Black Friday sales for like 2 weeks. It's like, well, it's not fucking Black Friday as it is. But it has now become a time where people expect to get cheaper stuff, and companies expect to make huge percentages of their annual revenue, and it'll be the same for us. I'm trying to look into like whether or not we have any real revenue targets. I have numbers in my head that would always be nice to hit. We've had some really good Black Friday sort of periods in the past, and other times not so much, and looking back it's like, it's been because of stock, or it's been because of this. And this year it's just like, well, more revenue is obviously fucking good for us. One thing I'm really trying hard not to do, which I've made the mistake in the past, is almost discount too heavily. Like sometimes you go, well, why don't we just do 70% off, because then we'll make more sales. But actually more sales at 70% off compared to, let's say, less sales at 40% off, the money kind of, so yeah, I've just been sat here a lot in the last couple of days since I've sort of had less time with Daisy now that she's feeling a bit better. I was here till almost midnight last night. And then lots of like boring shit, like just literally making sure we have enough postage supplies, because we're going to be doing all the orders ourselves, and there's a fucking Royal Mail strike on Monday, which in some ways buys us more packing time. But it's amazing how like just running out of poly bags to put orders into can grind that whole thing to a halt. And then unless you can source poly bags in like 12 hours, then so there's a lot of stuff like that, lots of stock counts, lots of like getting stuff like that, lots of spending money on inventory to make sure that we are holding as much as possible, because it's so annoying when you sell out of something and you're like, shit, if we'd actually just had 3 times as much, then who knows, we could have sold out of 3 times as much. So the one thing I'm trying really hard not to do is be limited by inventory, but at the same time not trying to jeopardize our like cash flow position by just putting, like, you don't want to bet the farm on it, but you want to sort of put enough aside. The thing that I fucking love is like just the creative marketing that we try and do around these times, and around like other projects. We've shot this like ridiculous tele shopping campaign called Bloggy's Black Friday Bargains. It'll have the vibe that it's sort of almost like a 24, actually like a 72-hour live stream all the way through. We are actually going to do a live stream as well with some giveaways and things like that. It's just dumb, funny content that some people might think is lame and cringy, but it's like, it was super fun to make. It was super like creative to get in that headspace and like work things out, and how are you going to do this, how are you going to do that, and then now taking those assets and thinking, okay, how do we implement these into social and email and stuff like that. Because I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize is how hard you almost have to go with regards to attention around this time, because everyone is just firing emails, firing Instagram posts, firing, like, I mean, we're not doing any paid stuff, but it's like a relentless onslaught of like, buy this fucking shit cheap. So to stand out, you kind of have to have enough assets prepared to make an impact. And And I just find that kind of thing quite fun. It's like, okay, well, how do we get people's attention in a fun way? Like, you don't just want to just put some shit up and be like, oh, 75% off. Although, it's funny because we've done some of these things before. We did, like, the Wheel of Misfortune or whatever we called it, which was crazy amounts of effort. Like, the whole Instagram feed ended up building out into an extra discount code if you check that. And, like, there was all this shit. Whether or not those creative ideas actually move the needle any more than just saying 50% off, I don't really know. It's hard to quantify, but I would much rather have the fun and do that shit than just be boring with it. Like, being boring with it is just the fallback. Like, I could easily in a few hours knock together enough Instagram posts and stuff like this to just say, oh, we've got a sale on. But I would rather put in a few days of extra work and like sweat one out, having fun and being creative, because I think it's kind of where I enjoy things. Like, if I wasn't owning Motus and running Motus, and, you know, if it all ended and I had to go and get a job tomorrow, doing something with regards to like creative marketing for a fun brand or something would probably be where I would try and go. I think it's just where my brain is like most fulfilled. And yeah, and then a lot of like there's a lot of like random stuff to do, like increasing the frequency of abandoned cart emails. There's all these little things that I've picked up over the years where, like, normally if somebody goes on our website, they add something to their cart and they put their email address in and they bottle it and they leave, I think it's like 12 hours later or 8 hours later or something, they get an email being like, oh, you left something in your cart, do you want to? Like, that's fairly common. But on Black Friday, the frequency at which you have to basically accelerate everything goes up. So there's just a lot of stuff like that where I've got to go into the system and change shit so that people are getting that email within an hour or two, because it works. Like, some people might listen to that and think, oh, that's weird, sneaky tactics or whatever, but like our email marketing in the last couple of months drives like 30 to 40% of our revenue. It's something that it's probably one of my biggest skill sets, I think, has been learning that in the last sort of couple of years. And yeah, it fucking works, and therefore it's like, well, if it works, why would I not do it? So, and it's effectively free, other than the subscription to the software. It's not like we're paying for Facebook adverts and stuff like that. Another thing that I'm trying to do on the website, well, what I will be doing is trying not to cut prices too hard, but then offering like AOV incentives. So instead of, I'll spend this much and get an extra bit off, spend this much more and get an extra bit off, because the higher AOV we can drive, that's obviously beneficial as well. That's average order value for anyone who wonders what AOV is. I don't know, does anyone enjoy these? Like, I get a fair amount of comments and people seem to enjoy it, but is this valuable? Because I just write a list of shit that I feel like I should talk about in an aim to be fairly transparent. So let me know, and if there's anything that you want to hear more about or less about, also let me know. The one thing I won't do is probably make them any more refined and less rambly, because it's a time thing. I just want to sit here and do this. I have just had a lot of caffeine and some ginger and some crunchy nut clusters, so I'm fired up, if you couldn't tell. Factory progress. We are continuing to sending off samples of bloggy stuff to this new factory that we've been working with. Yet to obviously see any results, but there's sort of like quietly confident, I think. It's really just a bit of a waiting game and making sure that we get the communication right and sort of get all of that right, and then hope. Obviously, if we can get a good amount in from Black Friday, then it means we have more capital to then put into stock and factory stock rather than the current stuff we're doing in-house, which is the entire objective of this sort of like slog that we're in at the moment. Is like, we still want to do the stuff in-house, but have it less of like the entirety of our product focus, and have like, really, we want to have our factory offering, which is the high quality shit that like actually is fucking sick and the bloggy's been working on for however long. We want that to be our bread and butter, and the in-house stuff kind of supplements that. So yeah, it's just a road of waiting and moving. And the London project, which was obviously the thing that started this whole thing, as I said in the last video, really hasn't moved much other than in my brain. There's just been so much to do with all of this, because I think I said in the last one, it's keeping this whole thing moving. Like, we can't have that project come out next year if the brand isn't alive. So it's like, gotta fucking keep the thing moving. I realistically just have to get through the next month or so with most of my focus on this, and then start dialing in heavily. Jordan is hopefully coming to the UK for 3 months at the start of next year, which I think will buy me a lot of time, because he's a fucking useful person to have around, and I can spread some load of stuff like that. And I think I'm starting to set slightly more realistic goals, predominantly to do with the documentary. The documentary is the most time-consuming thing that I think has to be done fully fucking right. The video, the impactful parkour video, realistically can be shot in a couple of months and edited in a couple of months. So that the entire thing there can happen next year. And at the end of the day, it's meant to be a snapshot of parkour in London around the time of the 20-year anniversary of Jump London. So like, I still want that coming out on the anniversary. The clothing, I'm actually, unless this factory falls apart, like, and we don't get anything good out of that, then I might start to be a bit concerned. But we already have the foundation of all the products that we want to run here that Bloggy's been working on, not necessarily with graphics and sort of those final touches, but it's not like we're starting from square one. We already have a huge advantage sort of moving into that situation. We just need to get the factories to actually make them in bulk and make sure that the quality's there, and obviously make sure we can fund it all correctly and safely and stuff like that. But fuck me, this video is long. I always I want to do them short. I'm sorry. Somebody told me off for apologizing. They said just speak. But yeah, the clothing side of things is I still would love to have come out on the anniversary as well. The pop-up shop is the one thing that I've kind of like put completely on the back burner, because it's such a, maybe if I scale the entire idea down a little bit, but really that's something that there's no point planning yet. Like, it's in my head, it's in my kind of metaphorical vision board, but I can't really make any plans yet if we just don't know where we're at. So the one thing that I think is going to be the hardest one to pull off by then is the documentary. But realistically, even if we had a trailer for the documentary, like even if we had all the components shot and kind of it working on it, even if a trailer for the documentary came out on the anniversary, that would suffice in my head. As I've said in the past thing, I think that should be the paid for piece if we were going to do a paid for thing. I also want to raise money for it, which in turn requires some sort of front end marketing. I basically want to try and raise money to fund the action video and the documentary. And I still think there's a huge amount of capacity for that. It's just, it requires front end work to sort of get people to understand that incentive. If you're watching this, maybe you're already convinced, but there's a lot more people that would be good to convince. But yeah, like, it's all still possible. I just got to keep the brand alive as we get there. So, and just get through the sort of tail end of this year and make sure, really, it's like we just need to drive as much revenue as possible in the next couple of months, and then that will float the boat a little bit easier to start taking some time and putting the effort into those things. But yeah, anyway, I need to carry on diving into Premiere and After Effects and just losing my mind over these things that I'm trying to do. I probably will not get another one of these out until after Black Friday, but I mean, it would be fucking weird if I did one before then. But yeah, we'll catch up and I'll update you and let you know. Keelan's also working on some amazing video stuff at the moment. Like, he's been pumping out some really beautiful stuff that he's been shooting on like cameras that you wouldn't expect to make results like that. I know he wants to have something out around Black Friday that's like very behind the brand aesthetics, or you know what I mean, like that vibe. Whether or not it comes out, I'm not sure, but I'm fucking impressed, like really, really impressed. And I even sent some of the stuff he shot and like edited to some filmmaker friends of mine, and they were like, what the fuck, like, how's he doing this? So yeah, look out for that eventually. And I guess that's all, because I've got loads to do. Love you lots. Bye.